Hello and welcome to Hack It, Series 2, an expert series that we are filming at Jugad, our newest restaurant, where you can actually eat consciously, healthily, locally sourced, sustainable. Again, our attempt to take food as medicine into a restaurant setting. Today, I am joined by the lovely Dr. Sohere Roked, who, according to British Vogue, is the hormone whisperer and the best hormone doctor in the whole of the UK. This is not me saying it, it's Vogue, and we love Vogue. Hormones is a really interesting topic to me, and I think it's a very important topic in everyone's lives, especially us females, because like I was telling Dr. Soher, females have 3 extra hormones compared to men. And it's funny how not we don't necessarily take that into account when it comes to making decisions, hiring, managing conflict, etc., etc., exercise even, right? So today we're going to delve deeper into hormones and learn everything about that. And what I love about today's episode is Dr. Soher is a qualified physician, and she came from Western medicine into the world of hormones, where she's trying to take alternative therapies, spiritual therapy, and combining that with Western medicine to help her patients over the longer term. So I cannot wait. But I want to start by, I would love for our viewers to hear your story. How did you create this company? What was your motivation? Like, how did you switch from Western medicine into this?
Well, thanks for having me on today. Well, it all began quite a long time ago. So I've been a qualified doctor for over 20 years now. And I always knew I wanted to be a doctor from quite a young age, right? I'm Indian, my dad's a doctor, but I didn't actually want to be a doctor myself, because I just always knew I wanted to help people in some way. So I went to medical school. I didn't know what I wanted to specialize in, really. And I really enjoyed all the jobs I did. But I kept thinking, oh, this isn't it. This isn't the thing I want to do forever, but I'm enjoying it, but not forever. And then I did a psychiatry job, which I really enjoyed, because I just love that mind-body connection. I think it's really powerful. Our mind influences our body so much. And this place where I worked on the Isle of Wight, they had amazing things for their inpatients. They had yoga, they had acupuncture, they had cookery class, they had like talking therapy, sharing circles, community. I thought it was amazing. I learned so much there. And then when I went to my next psychiatry job, I'm like, when's the yoga class? And they're like, what are you talking about? We don't even have funding for therapy. And I thought, okay. So I really enjoyed the way I was practicing there, because it was more holistic. But I don't know how I feel about this job now, where I'm just giving out pills and not really doing anything else. So then I thought maybe I should become a GP, because my dad's a GP. And I thought, okay, you can work in a community, you get to know the families, you know the place they live, you learn more about the people you're seeing. But general practice these days isn't quite like that. It's not quite what it was when my dad started doing it 40 years ago. So then I was getting a bit more disillusioned, a bit more disheartened. And I thought about the way I look after myself. And yeah, I mean, look, I will take paracetamol if I need to take paracetamol. But equally, I will go, what am I eating? What's going on with my sleep? Have I been exercising? Maybe I need a herbal remedy before I start going for, the hard stuff. And I thought, well, why am I doing that for myself? And why am I advising my friends and family to do that? I'm not doing that with my patients. There's like a disconnect here.
True.
So then I came across this book on functional medicine and integrative medicine by this British doctor called Mark Atkinson. I just thought, oh my God, this is what I'm looking for, because he's a conventional Western trained doctor, but he's also looking at the nutrition, the exercise, the chemicals, the toxins, the stress. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. So I went and I did some training with his academy. And that was really amazing. I learned a lot about how I could combine these two worlds together. And then a coach I was working with said to me, I've been to this amazing hormone clinic in London where they check your hormones and they optimize your hormones and they help balance what's going on for you. And I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty cool. Let me see if I can go and sit in with them and learn from them. So then, I did that. I worked there for a couple of years as well. And to me, I was like, aha, this is the light bulb moment, because I'd already started doing consultations telling patients about the nutrition and the supplements and the exercise and all these sort of things. And some of them still weren't responding. And then when I learned about the hormones, I was like, this is the foundation of what's going on. Because if the hormones aren't right, the pain isn't getting better, the headaches aren't are still happening. We're not looking at the whole picture. So I'm like, okay, foundation is hormones. And then the other things are the building blocks, your nutrition, your exercise, all these other sort of things, especially at key points in life, like perimenopause or menopause. And I see a lot of younger women who are in their 20s who have hormone disruption where, they feel good for 2 weeks of the month and not good for 2 months, which basically means they don't feel good for 6 months of the year, if you break it down. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I need to go into. And I haven't looked back since.
This is the future of medicine. I think over the next decade, it's so nice to see on social media, doctors who actually study, medicine, who practice as NHS doctors, and kind of like you, they're like, something is missing. You cannot just be prescribing pills on its own. We didn't study nutrition. There's a problem. We can't prescribe food. There's a problem. Lifestyle, a lot of that is food and exercise and medicine and laughter and community and yoga and meditation and, the whole thing. And more people are realizing that. More and more doctors are realizing that, like you. And I love that more and more younger doctors are realizing that. And they're kind of stepping away from, pure NHS work and, combining holistic medicine with Western medicine. So I personally think this is the future of medicine. I think the day that happens, where you can walk into a doctor's clinic with full trust and get a prescription for food and get a prescription for lifestyle and maybe have some Western drugs in there, right? I personally think that that's going to be the era of longevity.
Yeah.
I think all of us are trying. I think you're focusing on hormones. I'm focusing on nutrition and food as medicine. And I think we're paving the path. But I think until our doctor community as a whole has a mindset like yours, we can't quite get there fully. Because there's still a lot of people in my friend circle. I think most people are opening up to this holistic medicine and they're looking and craving, for ways where they can bring in homeopathy or food as medicine or, lifestyle. But there are still a lot of people who live and die by medicines.
Yeah.
The minute they feel something, oh my God, I need medicines. So let's talk about hormones. So tell us more about the role of hormones. Let's start with females, because I always say we have 3 extra hormones, right? And the different phases. Yeah, tell us more about these hormones and the role they play.
Sure. So as women, we always think about estrogen as the main hormone. But also we have progesterone, we have testosterone. These are really, really important hormones too. And they do, when you're having a menstrual cycle, they do fluctuate throughout the cycle. So when you're on your period, your estrogen and progesterone is low. And then maybe after around 7 days or so, your estrogen starts to peak. And this is what causes the ovulation, which is where the egg's released from the ovary, comes down the fallopian tube. And this is normally around day 10 to 14 for most women. And then after that, your progesterone starts to come up. So your estrogen starts to come down a bit, your progesterone starts to come up, and that's from the egg. And the reason you need that progesterone biologically is to thicken the lining of the womb so that a fertilized egg can implant for pregnancy. So then the progesterone should peak around day 21. And then if you're not pregnant, both the estrogen and progesterone are both coming down. With the testosterone, it's kind of steady, except for around ovulation where it peaks a bit, because, if you want to get pregnant, you might need a bit of testosterone to help you feel in the mood for that. So it peaks around ovulation, but then it comes back down. But it's only a small peak. It's quite steady throughout the month. If you're not pregnant, estrogen and progesterone are coming down. How rapidly they come down can influence your PMS, your premenstrual syndrome, which is why some women suffer quite a lot, other women don't suffer as much. And then you get your period if you're not pregnant. Whereas if you are pregnant, your progesterone and estrogen will continue to peak and be high to help sustain a pregnancy.
Interesting. So when, sometimes you find women are fragile, they feel a little bit sort of volatile or emotional. So is that linked with this?
Yeah, so a lot of women find that happens around the end of their cycle. For some women, maybe it's 3 days. For some women, I see can be 2 weeks, which is a long time to not feel good in yourself after the ovulation. Some people feel it on their period. Some people find it improves as soon as they get their period. Most women feel good around their ovulation. Not all women do if their estrogen is peaking too much. So I always say to my patients, you have to be tracking this stuff, either on an app, either on pen or paper. You can just do it in the calendar of your phone. But because we're all so different, we're all individual. And that's something I really believe in with the way I practice. I can see 15 people in a day, there might be 15 different prescriptions. It's not a case of everyone comes in, gets the same thing, and then leaves again. So I'm really listening to what the person's telling me and trying to, as well as looking at testing, I'm listening to what they're telling me and piecing the two things together. So it's a combination of data, but also symptoms. That's really important for me. But of course, I'm seeing you for maybe 45 minutes, 30 minutes. You're living with yourself every day. So I always think it's it's empowering to be tracking this stuff.
I agree.
And to feel like you have some control over it because you're tracking it and looking at it.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And, what about like exercise? Like, how do you guide, your patients around like because you have within exercise, you have cardio, you have weight training, and there is certain links with hormones, right? Like estrogen, progesterone. Progesterone kind of makes you, at least how I understand in layman term, is like, when you feel lazy, like you want to be on your couch and just chill, that's your progesterone. And estrogen is more like you want to be like you can do stuff, you have more willpower. I can fast. Like there are certain, like I've been kind of tracking my cycle and my behaviors and all of that, and yeah, certain days of my cycle I'm very energetic, I have a lot of willpower, I find fasting so easy, but certain days I find fasting so hard. Certain days I'm like, I can't wait to get to the gym, and certain days I'm just like, I just want to chill.
So when you get a peak of estrogen, for most women, that's when they feel really good, really energized, good focus, good concentration. I would say that's your days to do your socializing. That's your days to be able to fast, because estrogen, you don't need as many calories on those days, so you're able to sustain the fast better. Now, I must correct you a little bit on progesterone. Progesterone is my favorite hormone. So your progesterone starts rising after the ovulation normally. So maybe after day 14. Now, it's not as like strong and energetic as the estrogen, but it causes stability. So what I would say is that when you get that peak of estrogen, it's like energy, go, 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 do HIIT classes, feel amazing. Progesterone, you still feel good, but you have more stability. So I always say, like, when it comes to work, I would say estrogen, that sort of day 7 to 14, it's like new ideas, creativity, going out, meetings, chatting to people, building things. Progesterone would be more like writing everything up. It's the bit where you're a bit like, okay, I still feel pretty good, I still feel pretty focused, the energy isn't quite as strong, but maybe now is the time I can like put it all on paper, write it up, get some structure for all these things I want to do. And that's when maybe you do a bit less cardio and maybe more strength training, weights, those sorts of things. But it's that drop in progesterone, maybe before the period, maybe that last week, day 21 to 28 or so, where you maybe are feeling a little bit more tired, maybe a little bit more lazy. So I'm like, okay, maybe then do your yoga, do your Pilates, go for a nice walk, and give yourself some extra time to sleep as well. Whereas maybe you need a bit less sleep around your ovulation, and then in the run up to your period, you're like, okay, I know I'll need my 8-ish hours, a bit more now, so I'm going to give myself that space.
That is so smart. I think this is what women need, is to really understand which hormone is kicking in when, and plan their month, their exercise patterns. Because like there are some days where I'm just like, let's do the 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. workouts with, properly with a trainer, where it's like really hardcore. But then there are some weeks where I just can't do it, And so rather than having a 6:30 a.m. Set up in the gym every single week of the year, you can actually plan your month
Yeah.
accordingly. So let's go back to the basics. So when you say day 1, day 7, day 14, day 21, day 28, right? So let's look at what is day 1. Is that the first day of your period?
Yeah, it's first day you bleed.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the first day of your period. Fine. Got it. So then let's say that's a 5-day cycle. So you're saying that day 7 to day 14 is when the estrogen kicks in and,
Yeah.
and builds up. So those are your most energetic.
Yeah. So I'll just also say every woman is different. So I saw, this is why you need to track.
Yeah.
So I saw a woman last week and actually her estrogen doesn't peak till day 17. So I'm like, oh, okay, things are a bit different here. So we need to adjust things accordingly. So what I'm saying is kind of like the standard, but someone else's cycle could be different.
course.
So that's why the tracking is really important.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. So, and how do you track? It just depends on like your energy levels. You just write it down. Today I feel energetic.
I'd say energy levels. I'd say, if you're tracking for 2 or 3 months, you're going to get your pattern and then realize what happens.
Interesting.
So what, interestingly, we say in that sort of premenstrual phase, just before your period, most women maybe don't like to exercise as much. Maybe they don't have much energy. Personally, I can exercise right up till my period. I feel really good. And I can do that and I feel good for it. And then maybe when I'm on my period and maybe just after, that's when I get my drop. So I know that because I track. Yeah.
Interesting. I think I'm going to start tracking because I also feel that like, even business decisions, like days of conflict, like there are certain days where I'm just like, I am in a business of conflict because I have operations, I have products, I have, big team, restaurant, and we're always trying, and we're a startup.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to get better and more efficient, and, but there are certain days of the week where I find like conflict conversations extremely hard, while other days I'm just like, whatever. So I think I'm going to start tracking. That's really interesting.
Between that and the moon, I choose when I'm going to have my difficult conversations. Like if there's something going on with Mercury retrograde or something, I'm a bit like, maybe I'll leave that conversation until next week when we're all in a better headspace.
That's so smart. So tell us about the moon. Yesterday was full moon, right?
Yeah, yesterday was full moon.
Because I've always been curious about like the moon and its power and its energy, So tell me, why did you say between the moon and the hormones?
I'm not an astrologer. I don't know. I'm not the expert on this, but I like to follow astrology a little bit as well. So if I know there's something going on astrologically, like full moon, sometimes you can feel more emotional. Like this full moon just passed. It's quite an emotional full moon because it's like bringing up a lot of things that are happening. Maybe to let go of as you're going into the new year and things. Wow. So like a few of my friends had like some difficult times and things. So I'm like, okay, you had a difficult time on the weekend, but it might have also been the full moon energy for you. And then new moon is all about starting new things as well. And like, maybe being more creative and things. So I like to look at these things as
holistically.
Well. Yeah, exactly.
That's so interesting. It's funny you say that because I had a very emotional night last night.
Okay.
After a long, long time. So it's maybe because it was.
Yeah.
I do believe moon's energy is the most powerful, right? Like it kind of determines the waves, the high tide, low tide. It's all determined by the moon. That's how powerful it is. It's really interesting. But it's a lot to kind of
it is
break down, which is why hopefully these episodes are I know they're really interesting for me. I end up learning something and I hope others do as well. So going back to hormones, that's really interesting. So your favorite hormone is progesterone. Mine obviously is estrogen because I'm a very high energy person.
But let's not forget testosterone. That's a great hormone too.
Let's talk about testosterone because there's a lot of like confusion in the market about testosterone, right? People are like, oh, I'm very competitive. I must have a lot of testosterone. I shouldn't have as a man, I shouldn't have soy because I'll suddenly start developing like man boobs or whatever because of testosterone, or curvy or like curves on my body that are like a woman. And I'm just like, that doesn't really sound right to me. But because I've also seen papers proving it's not necessarily true, at least on the nutrition side. So let's talk about testosterone and the role it has in a man's life and a female's life.
Yeah, so important in both, really. So for women, a lot of women think, oh, this is a man's hormone, I don't need it. But, if I'm prescribing testosterone for a woman, it's not in the same dose as I'm giving to a man. It might be like for a woman, maybe 1 milligram a day as opposed to 50 for a man. So it's a big, big difference. And for us women, you know, it just gives us a bit more vitality, a bit more energy, spark, focus, concentration, motivation, building muscle, burning fat. You know, who doesn't want all these things?
Yeah.
People think it's just for the libido, but you know, it is as well, but it's also for so many other vital things for a woman. So it can be really great. And people always worry, oh, I don't want to get hairs, and you know, I don't want to get
Right.
acne, I don't want to lose my hair and things. But like I said, I'm prescribing in quite low doses, and also I'm doing testing. So I'll be testing before I give it, so I know how much to give, and then testing once someone's been on it, so I can optimize the dose. People really worry about the hair loss, but out of the, like, you know, thousands of women I've seen, maybe I've seen that in 2 or 3. So it really is minimal. Okay, maybe see the odd spot a little bit more, but then we're like, not that much more though, to be honest, maybe like less than 50 people again out of thousands. And then I'll just tweak the dose, so then those things go away. So that's why it's important to see someone who sort of knows what they're doing with these things.
Yeah.
And then for men, yeah, testosterone's so important. It's their most important hormone, you know. And again, a lot of people think, oh, do the men just come to you because they're worried about libido? Actually, that's not the reason most men come to see me. It's very much like, I used to have a lot more energy to do my job and go to the gym and then like see my kids, and that energy isn't there anymore. My mood is very low, and I'm not sure why my mood is so low. So again, we do testing and we look at these things. But I'll tell you what really depresses testosterone and all the hormones for women. It's the cortisol stress hormone. And we are like living in such a busy, fast-paced society, you know, where it's go, 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 you know, especially in London, but also outside of London. There's so much pressure on people to do more, be more, see more. You don't need your sleep. The work's the most important thing. If you're not working for like 10 hours and then going out at night, you're a loser. Do you know what I mean? And like, we're just not designed to live this way. So, you know, when we were talking about the women and the cycle, you know, like you were saying, sometimes if you're pushing yourself to do that exercise where you don't feel good at certain times of the month, you might then be raising your cortisol too much.
Yeah.
And, you know, a little bit of cortisol's good. We don't want it fully sustained all the time as high or extremely flat and low, because then that's going to have a negative impact on your health, on your heart health, on your mind, on your the way you're processing the things you're eating, your digestion, the way you're making your hormones. So a lot of what I do these days is talk to people about how they can manage their stress better. And it's really difficult because, you know, we live in such a fast-paced society. But
The secret killer.
yeah, it
'Cause
is.
it just sneaks into your life. You don't know it. You don't know you're stressed.
Yeah,
You know, having a you know, conflict with someone and a conversation in a very confrontational way or format causes inflammation in your
does.
body. You know?
Totally.
Causes stress,
Yeah.
cortisol. Yeah, it's just, and it's, I don't know how you, that's something that I know I suffer from. Like if I probably ever have hormonal, like I've been pretty lucky with my cycle and all of that. I think I should track more. But I think one thing that I'm most worried about is this constantly elevated cortisol and stress management. I need, you know, I think we all need to understand steps, a scientific process. Like scientific as in it should be a process that one must follow every day. That it's a check of the box as you start your day that I've looked after my stress levels, you know, because I've followed A, B, C. Because I feel that we do a great job. If you look at longevity markers, right, what makes you live long and healthily and therefore happily, right, is to be disease-free. And how to be disease-free is nutrition,
Yeah.
being thoughtful and conscious about, you know, your nutrition. And even nutrition, by the way, is personalized. 'Cause it's no one size fit all. You know, and hopefully like Foodhak helps solve that in some shape or form, whether it's app or products or whatever. But it's nutrition, being thoughtful about it. Exercise,
Yeah.
keep your body moving, well-oiled machine. And again, even exercise is personalized.
Sure.
And you know how important it is for women to do some strength training to build muscle, because we lose muscle after a certain age year on year. So managing that. And I think most people check they do, those people who are trying to be better, they try and they exercise regularly. Sleep.
Yeah.
Now you have all these rings that you can wear, all these wearables,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, they can manage that. Meditation, you have a lot out there. People manage to find time, right? Community. If you live in busy cities, that's the one thing I think we do a good job with, is, to be out and about, yes, at the cost of exhaustion, tiredness, circadian rhythms. So I think we do this quite well. So one thing which is a secret killer, as I call it, is stress, because it sneaks into our lives. I don't know right now if I'm stressed or not, but I could be.
Yeah.
Because like just on my way here, I was having some very stressful conversations. So I probably always have raised cortisol, and I've done all these 5. I look after myself. I've done all these 5. I mean, you include self-care in there.
Yeah.
I don't always do a great job with it, because, women tend to put ourselves right at the end of the queue for themselves. But I'm conscious of it. I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah.
Stress.
Yeah.
And that impacts my hormones.
Yeah.
And that impacts the way I feel.
Yeah.
My energy.
Yeah.
And the 5 things I
Well, it
discussed.
will, yeah. It means if you're stressed, you might choose different food options, because you might be like, I'm just going to grab some chocolate, or just eat something to comfort myself.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of that in my life. You'd be like, I don't feel like exercising because I'm like so stressed or upset about something going on. When you're stressed, it can affect your sleep, so you don't get good quality sleep. So yeah, it like leaches into all these areas. And by the way, I've had extremely high cortisol in my life. I tested it for me for the first time probably 8 years ago. So it's something I can relate to with people, because it's a journey I've been on myself, and it didn't resolve overnight. It's like, taken maybe 5-6 years of like improving, and then me actually having to make some quite big lifestyle changes and going, okay, I'm taking the ashwagandha, which I love. It's a great supplement for managing stress. I know you like it as well.
Have you tried ashwagandha cookies?
I've had your
granola?
cookies,
Oh, good.
yeah, and the granola. So yeah, it's really great. That's such a great way of like building that into your life without just having to take it as a supplement. I really worked on the quality of my sleep, because that was a huge issue for me. Managing to exercise in different ways, changing things in my food, taking B supplements and other supplements that can help your adrenal glands. But really the biggest change for me was having to just make some lifestyle changes. I can't work the hours that I used to work when I was a younger woman, maybe. And I can't do these things because it's bad for my health. And then what sort of example I am to patients coming in if I'm telling them to do one thing and then I'm being a hypocrite and I'm doing the exact opposite. So yeah, I tried to make some big changes, which definitely helped.
That's really interesting. How do you test cortisol?
So I either do it on urine or saliva. It varies throughout the day. So from the time you wake up to say 30 minutes later, it should peak as you wake up and get going out of bed, and then it should come down slowly over the day. It's what our 9 to 5 work day is based on, basically, the way the cortisol should peak and then drop. So men follow this circadian rhythm. Obviously, as women, we also have the other hormones as well.
Yeah.
So I test on saliva or urine. And then I always say to people, we have to do it on a normal day for you. Don't do it when you're on holiday, feeling more relaxed. Don't do it like when you're just on Sunday, relaxing at home all day. Let's do it on a normal day for you. So when you're going to work, if you go to the gym, normally go to the gym. And then let's see how your cortisol responds to that.
Interesting. That's super interesting. Yeah, and I think sometimes I even feel that hunger is not necessarily hunger. Like sometimes you are hungry, but sometimes I think it's just a hormone disbalance.
Yeah,
Do you agree with that? Because sometimes I feel that. I'm like, this is not my time to feel hungry, and I've eaten. Why am I feeling hungry? Is that to do with your hormones?
Yeah, it can be, because in that second half of the cycle as well, you need a little bit more calories, only really about 300 or so extra calories, but you might feel hungrier, especially if you're not eating like nutrient dense food. So that could be playing a part, because remember, your body's trying to prepare you for pregnancy at that time, so you might need more calories around that time.
Interesting. Yeah. And so what role do you think, or what role have you seen nutrition playing around the health of your hormones and cycle management?
Hugely. So all our hormones are made from healthy fat. So I see not loads of women, but some women coming in, they're having problems with the cycle. Maybe they're trying to get pregnant and there's issues there. And I'm like, how much fat do you eat? And fat is still demonized quite a lot. So I will say, look, we need to bring in a quarter of an avocado a day, 2 teaspoons or tablespoons of olive oil a day, some nuts and seeds. That can make a huge difference. Protein as well, really, really important. And, I'd say that having the balance of the, protein, carbohydrates, fat, really important, because so many of us go, I'm just going to have high protein and no carbs. And I think especially if you're having cycle problems or you're going into perimenopause or menopause, the balance can be really, really important to help you at that stage of life.
Yeah, it's because we've actually done case studies. I mean, we're a food business, and so we've kind of gone down the path of consumer rather than healthcare, because I just feel like food is also fun. It's an experience, and you don't want to take away from that and make it too clinical. But having said that, we love data, just given where we come from and our philosophy. So we created this turmeric latte blend with a lot of Ayurvedic herbs and spices, from fennel to actually you're having it right now. And we tested this in a bunch of different women, all of whom were different from each other in terms of their cycle and symptoms and how they felt, and all of that. And we saw a dramatic improvement, even pain management, in women. So we followed these women for 3 months, and they were basically having this every single day. And we saw an improvement in just them being able to manage their pains during the cycle. Actually, mostly pains was like a very obvious symptom relief that we saw with something like that. And that's when we were like, wow, that's the impact of what you consume as a woman, in helping you balance your hormones in a way that, you can manage your cycles better. But I think that's the hard part, right? For females to kind of decipher, because you have cravings, I want to have a chocolate on the first day. Again, it depends on when your hormones are coming in or not. So I found like this really helped me as well.
But also we're so hard on ourselves as women, right? And it's like, okay, if you're on your period or the day before your period and you want a little bit of chocolate, get some dark chocolate, have a little bit, and just like we're so busy, and sometimes we were talking about this earlier, we give so much to other people, we need to give some of that love to ourselves and comfort and kindness. I think that's the real big game changer. I've been very hard on myself in the past. I was talking to this with friends last night who were talking about this, and like always striving to do more, got to do more, or you failed at that, or that wasn't good. Actually, I'm just a bit softer with myself, in the same way I would be with my patients or my best friend. I go, okay, you had a little slip up, it's okay. You're still livable, you're still good, you're still all the things that you are. And I'm like, why don't I give that to myself? And I think since I've started doing that, it's been a real big game changer.
That's amazing. Because I bet you that has an influence on, positive hormone balance within. So I guess what are your tips for healthy hormone balance for men and women? What have you seen working? I guess I know I know everyone is personalized, but I guess some of the things you could do.
So I'd say tracking is really, really important. So once you understand your cycle, then you know when your interventions need to be put in. Totally agree with what you said about exercise, food, sleep, all these things being foundational for health. And I'd say that that's a really good place to start and see how your body responds, because you're putting the good stuff in, you're nourishing your body, and it is going to have a positive impact on what's happening. I do use a lot of supplements with people as well. So, it's very broad and very general. And obviously when I see someone, it's a bit more personalized, but, really good B complex makes a huge impact for your female or male hormones, and also the stress hormones. Helps you metabolize everything better, which is really good.
Okay.
Ashwagandha, if you're feeling stressed, can help. Again, some people maybe don't get on with it. You don't know till you try. So I think it's a really good thing to try. And there are other adaptogens available, like rhodiola as well. Ginseng is more of a morning one that can give you a bit more energy. I had some this morning. I use the adaptogens and things available as well that can really help. I obviously do hormone testing when I see people, so we can go a little bit deeper with what's going on as well. And then something that comes into, I think, a lot of what you do is I look at the gut health as well. And obviously eating well-balanced, nutritious food has a huge impact on your gut health. And that's so important for your hormone balance and for your stress balance. Often if I see patients and we look at the hormones and we treat that, and if they say things still aren't improving, but I check levels and they look good, I'm like, okay, it's either your stress or your gut, really. So we look at that. And there's so much available these days in terms of personalized medicine.
Yeah.
You know, you can go to companies to get blood tests and things like that that are, you know, pretty affordable as well. So these things can really help you just take some control. And, you know, we have the NHS in the UK, and the NHS is, you know, it can be really brilliant if you have a serious condition, you need something, it's really great, but it's not so great at the moment with the preventative health.
Yeah.
And this is where I think, you know, we've grown up with this NHS going, oh, well, if I need something, I must go to the doctor in the NHS. But because things are so different now and things are a bit more strained, it really is about taking some responsibility and empowering yourself to know what's going on in your own health, you know, either tracking with some testing, looking at supplements that could help, and things, you know, other alternative practices you could do that help you. And I think it is about getting empowered again to be like, well, actually, there are doctors, but my health is my responsibility.
Yeah.
What am I going to do to help myself? I think that's a really powerful position to be in.
I agree. And we were talking about that briefly, like a relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
Right, which kind of connects this mind, body, soul. You know, and you can bring in the science and, you know, the supplements and the, you know, all of that, but there is a holistic way of doing things, of unlocking happiness and managing cortisol levels, and therefore having a healthier hormone balance. You know, a healthy gut microbiome with diversity and lots of plants and, you know, only the good stuff and not the bad stuff. Yeah, I mean, that is the future, hopefully. And I think we're all kind of trying our level best to surround people, you know, with these tools to kind of get there. But tell me more about something that got me really curious was your book. So you're also the author of The Tiredness Cure.
Yeah.
And I love the heading, the title. And yeah, very curious about your findings and what is the tiredness cure?
So I wrote that book. It's about 10 years old now, actually. And I was still doing a lot of NHS GP work at that time.
Yeah.
And what I found is that I was seeing patients coming in and, you know, the blood tests are normal. So I, as a GP, didn't have anything to do to really help them. So I used the holistic stuff I was learning, the integrative medicine, to create this book to talk them through, first of all, what you're looking for medically that could be causing tiredness. So, you know, what blood tests to get done, thyroid health, this adrenal stress thing I wrote quite a lot about as well. But then I also wrote about things you could do yourself in terms of your nutrition, the way you exercise, looking at the hormone balance, the gut health, also things like community, laughter, social contacts. It's so healing. You know, I've met an amazing community this year. I've done a university course this year, a postgrad university course. And what I didn't expect from the course was to meet an amazing community of like-minded people. And it's been so nourishing for me. I've learned a lot on the course too, on psychedelics. It's been amazing. But what I've learned more about is this human connection, the support we have for each other, building community. And that's been really game-changing for me. You know, I've changed the environment where I live. I think I was telling you, you know, when I spent a lot of time in Wales, I bought a house by the sea because I wanted to be by nature. You know, I love being in London. It's so busy and hectic and parties and socializing and seeing my patients, and it's all amazing. It's also lovely to go and just like have a sea view and relax. And I know not everyone can do that, but we can all build nature in to our life somehow as well, which is just
so
really important. Yeah, I think especially when you're in London, but we've got some beautiful, beautiful parks in London.
Yeah.
I love walking through Hyde Park after work. Because I work in Knightsbridge. I sometimes walk through the park on my way home. It just helps me decompress. So I get home feeling a bit more grounded. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. And how does that play a part with your hormones?
Oh, nature. Yeah, it's really great for lowering your cortisol. Yeah. So nature connectedness is, you know, really important for our health. And one of my lecturers is always saying, okay, so you appreciate nature more, but are you doing anything? Is it showing in your actions, you know? And I'm like, yeah, actually, you know, where is it showing in your day to day in terms of things you're doing for conservation or or the way you're being more aware, or going litter picking on the beach, or spending more time around nature and grounding yourself and having more appreciation for things. So yeah, I think obviously we'd have all lived in communities and tribes. Our ancestors would have been doing that and spending a lot of time in nature. So I love being in the mountains, or I love being by the sea. They're my two favorite places to be. I have both in Wales, so I'm lucky that way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you know what? When I was growing up in Wales, I had zero appreciation for these things. I was like, I love cities. I
Yeah.
want to go on holiday to New York. I want to go to London. And I still love those things.
Yeah.
But then I guess being a bit more well-rounded now, I have appreciation for both.
No, absolutely. I think, like my husband's favorite place is like the sea.
Yeah.
Which is, and mine is actually a forest. Like if you had to ask me, where would you be? Like where's your dream house?
Yeah.
I can imagine myself in a lush green forest, having a lovely home, lots of glass.
Nice.
So
You
you
get
can
that
actually
view.
get the view, the
Yeah.
green, the sunlight,
Yeah.
And it's funny because both of these places are nature. And it's like, and I feel that we're like longing and craving to be in nature because we've lived in London for 20 years.
Yeah,
In between,
wow.
went off, lived in New York, on the East Coast, on the West Coast. Again, big cities.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. I mean, and I grew up in Delhi, big city.
Again, yeah.
So it's been a long time and very stressful lives, hectic social calendar. And while I'm grateful for all of that,
Of course, yeah.
we crave being in nature.
Yeah.
And obviously, I feel that if you listen to your body, it's probably my body, longing for some cortisol management or like lowering of my cortisol, right? Just by being in nature. So yeah, this is really interesting. Every time it's funny how like attracts like, because
Yeah.
on my podcast, like I get people who are subject matter experts in their fields. Like yours is sort of studying hormones and understanding the role of hormones in day-to-day management. And we're sort of ending the podcast with similar philosophies of longevity. We're talking about how important sleep is, how important laughter is, how important companionship is, how important love is, nature is, food is,
Yeah.
exercise is. And if you think about it, like how do you live longer and disease free if you can hack all these 7 or 8 eight, right? Because it just means how interconnected hormones are to being disease free, how interconnected gut is to your hormones, how interconnected your mind is to your microbiome and hormones and cortisol
Yeah.
management, right? So yeah, it's fascinating how all of this is sort of so interconnected, and if we just follow these 7 or 8 things, it's getting control in our own hands. It is the tiredness cure, it is the hormone cure, it is the longevity cure. But the hard part is, how do you make sure that throughout the year, not just January where you're like, oh, it's January, so I'm going to, for this month, I have very high willpower and I'm
Yeah.
going to follow this. And then
Yeah.
what I find I'm a culprit of is that these habits start to drift away towards the end of the year.
So it feels unsustainable. We get too busy, or other things creep in.
Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
consistently, manage to keep up with these 8 activities on a weekly basis? And it doesn't have to be every day.
Yeah.
That's the big question.
So it's really difficult. And, I have the same thing as you. There'll be weeks where I'm doing everything, and then weeks where I've done nothing, and I haven't got enough sleep, and I've been rushing around, too much socializing, and then long hours at work and things. So I know it is difficult. I'm not pretending that it's so easy and I've got everything sussed, right? But what I've done recently is I've made a list. I call it my nourishment list of all the things that fill me up. And there's body things on there, there's mind things and emotional things on there, there's soul things on there. So it's things like, go to the gym and lift weights, go to gym and do cardio. There's meditation, there's visualization, there's see someone who I'd call, part of my soul family and have a nourishing conversation, spend time with my niece and nephews who I absolutely adore, maybe go for a walk on the beach. What other things? I listened to an amazing podcast where I learned something. And then what I try to do is make sure I've done something from that list in the areas of the body, the emotion and the mind and the soul. So that way I'm not being too hard on myself that I've got to do something every single day.
Yeah.
Let's go, okay, once a week, can you hit these 4 things? And that way you know you're moving towards where you want to be. And then I also, have my sort of bigger goals of things I want to achieve, sort of personally and professionally. And I'm like, have I done one thing this week that moves me nearer to one of those goals? So that's something I'm implementing. My best friend is my accountability buddy. So we can then go, okay, what have you done this week? And what have I done? And then we're not being hard on each other, but if you've got someone who you can be accountable to, who understands your goals, then you're maybe more likely to reach them. So that's something practical that I brought in for myself to make and also achievable. And if I do one thing, that's great. If I do more than one thing, that's even better. But let's not put more pressure. And for me, that's something that's been really helpful.
Wow. I love that. I think that's my goal for the new year, is how do I come up with my system?
Yeah.
Without putting too much pressure. Because you have to be gentle to yourself and kind to yourself. And we forget that.
Yeah.
Because we live in a very masculine world,
Yeah.
but we are feminine as women. And sometimes we tend to confuse those energies, and we tend to wear the masculine jacket way too often.
Yeah.
And then you don't feel good within yourself because your natural, body is feminine. And then bringing this back to hormones. So I've actually learned something really interesting today. So obviously estrogen is your ideas hormone for like working women. So I said, I guess that was day 7 to 14, roughly.
Yeah.
Depending. So that's your ideas hormone, more energetic hormone.
Yeah.
Progesterone is your structure hormone, where you actually want to take one of those ideas and put them down on paper and structure your week or your meetings or put together your notes. So more of a thoughtful hormone. And testosterone gives you that spark.
Yeah.
That extra bit of spark. Interesting. And estrogen makes you, if anyone wants to fast or is into fasting, it tends to make, you don't necessarily crave too many calories during estrogen.
Yeah.
Interesting. So those can be your fasting days.
Yeah.
Right. And those can also be your weightlifting days in the gym.
Yeah,
if you
can
were to
be.
think about exercise.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that's so interesting, especially for working women or for women in general. Even the ones who don't work, are homemakers, but they want to go to the gym, or they're feeling too emotional, or they want to have a certain conversation. Things to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Amazing. So your practice is in Knightsbridge.
It is, yeah.
And people can follow you on Instagram,
Yeah.
Dr. Sohere Roked, full name?
Dr. Sohere,
Yes.
Hormones and Health.
Hormones and Health. Perfect. And you've written your book, which everyone should get a copy of. And I'm sure it covers these kind of topics.
It does, yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing everything with us today. I think this is going to be a really helpful episode.
I hope so.
I think,
Thanks for
I have a
having
feeling it's going to be. And it's right after the full moon, the emotional full moon.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Hack It. I hope you enjoyed the insights and stories that we shared today. Are you hungry for more? Follow us on Instagram at The Foodhak. That's a hack without a C. Or subscribe now to be the first to hear about our next episode when it drops. See you next time.